Okay, we're going to finally finish 3-4, and the last thing is graphing two variable absolute value inequalities. So there's an x and y, as you can see on the screen, within the absolute values in this case. And so 2x plus y in absolute value is less than 1. So these, what you do is the same thing that we did in the previous chapter when we split these up like this. So what you do is you start off with a pen. Actually, I need a pen here. And so we have this problem here. And so if absolute value is less than, well, in this case 1, if absolute value is less than something, it turns into this here. So it's got to be less than 1 and it's got to be greater than -1. So you have -1 is less than 2x plus y is less than 1. Okay, so step 1, split into two inequalities. Then what you have is you have you basically have two inequalities in one. -1 is less than this monkey business, and then this monkey business is less than +1. And what you can do is actually totally mirrors what you could do in the similar looking problems from the previous chapter that we did. What you can do is you can actually, let me move this over actually, I want more space, but you do the same thing to all three parts. So I want to isolate, I want to get y by itself. Okay? Well, how do I do that? Because, well, the only reason why I want to get y by itself, because then it will look like slope-intercept form, and you guys are probably all the best at, that's probably what you want. That's probably what you guys all prefer. So if we get y by itself, how we would do that, we'd do -2x, -2x, and -2x to all three parts. Okay, so then what you have is -2x minus 1 is less than y is less than -2x plus 1. So what we do, and maybe we should color coordinate this a little bit perhaps. Call this guy the red one, and then this guy I'll do green. Oops, that's a horrible underline, but you get the drift. So we have to graph y equals -2x plus 1, and so I'll do that real quick. In fact, I'll pause and do them both here. So I have to graph the -2x plus 1 and the -2x minus 1. And we use dashed lines for both, so I'm going to pause and just do it right away so I don't waste a bunch of time monkeying around. So there we go, and this is not the best example because they're right up on each other. And so y is always between the 1 and the -1, or excuse me, y is always between this line, so it's less than the red line, so below the red line and above the green line. I know this says less than both times, but if you rearrange this one that's underlined in green, you would get y is greater than the -2x plus 1, so it's above the green, below the red, above the green and below the red. Well, that's just between the two. So let me get the little highlighter, see how that goes. Highlighter, boom. We shade between the two. I don't know. Green will work. I have the little one here. And so it's everything between the two. So this is just everything above the green and below the red. And that's just what's between them. There you go. So that's typically how one of these guys works. Okay? Don't judge me based on my coloring skills. It's everything between the red and the green. Right? Next. So what if it's this? Okay? Well, you switch it into 2. Okay, let me switch to a normal looking pen. So you switch into 2. This was, even though it doesn't say it, this is really an and problem. Okay, like what we did today. Because it's got to be y has got to be less than the red and it's got to be greater than the green. Okay, here this is an or problem. If we have x minus y is greater than 3, that means either, and I want to move this up, either x minus y is greater than 3, Or it could be that x minus y is less than negative 3. This is how we split these up back in the last chapter. If you have absolute value greater than a number, then the stuff on the inside is greater than that number, or it could be less than the opposite of the negative version. Okay, something's bigger than 3, it could either be, well, if the absolute value of something's bigger than 3, it is either bigger than 3 by itself, or it is less than negative 3. So let's say this was negative 4, then if you absolute valued it, it would become positive 4, which is bigger than 3. So that's why you get this other one, because when you absolute value it, it becomes positive, and if as long as it's more negative than negative 3, the absolute value of it will be bigger than 3. But anyway, even if you don't get why you split it up into 2, you still got to just remember to do it. Okay, if you have absolute value bigger than a number, it turns into something like this, where it's bigger than the 3 or less than the negative 3. And then you graph both of these independently. So you have, and I should probably, I'll go with the red and green again. So I'll make this one red. Negative y is greater than negative x plus 3. So y is less than positive x minus 3, because I divided both sides by a negative 1 and it switched it. And then similarly, we have negative y. It really is very similar, which is nice about these problems. That always kind of tends to happen. Oh my. Plus 3, so x plus 3. So I will graph these after pausing here, so let me pause it. I really probably should have done a greater than or equal to here so that I have 2 dotted lines, but it's too late now, and no big deal. So let me pause and graph them. Alright, so where do you shade? Well, I said it, but I didn't write it down, which is bad, my bad. What you have to do is it's above the green or below the red. This is an or problem. Okay, it can either be bigger than 3 or less than negative 3. So you can either be below the red or above the green. So that's actually 2 separate parts. So it's oops, I didn't want to do that. Oh my goodness. It is having all sorts of problems. Here we go. This, so above the green, and this is not kindergarten, don't grade me on the shading, and I know some of you have problem with me not filling everything in, so let me try to do that. So it's above the green or below the red, so that's not here. So it's kind of weird, it's 2 separate parts is your final answer. So these are, this is how you shade, and so there's some of these tomorrow. Maybe some other ones. I'll do a little bit of teaching tomorrow as well, probably, but mostly you guys have time to practice ones like these. Alright, so hopefully that was helpful.